Borderline personality disorder is defined by the National Institute of Mental Health as a mental illness that severely impacts a person's ability to regulate their emotions. I remember in high school sitting with my mother, talking her down from killing herself. I remember questioning to myself, what do I say to make her okay? It's not her fault. I had to do this. There's nothing to forgive. She did not choose for me to be the one to put her puzzle pieces back together. I chose to be the one to do it, and I would choose it again. This lack of control creates anger and frustration, and anger I often see in my mother, but she was never angry toward her kids, but always toward herself. The National Institute of Mental Health says a sign of borderline personality disorder is when someone shows signs of self-harming behavior, such as cutting. I remember the first time I noticed the cuts on my mother's wrist. I questioned her about it. She lied and said she heard it on the rose bushes she grew. Part of me knew she lied, the other part of me hoped she didn't. It was the first time I noticed the haphazard puzzle pieces on her mantle. The National Institute of Mental Health says a sign of borderline personality disorder is when someone has recurring thoughts of suicidal behaviors or threats. I remember the time my mother first mentioned wanting to kill herself. In a moment burned forever into my memory, my mother on the linoleum in the kitchen, banging her head against the side of the oven, saying everyone would be happier if I killed myself. I know the linoleum won't feel low enough for her. Her 3D train puzzle fell off the mantle. I don't blame my mother, and the last thing I want is for anyone else to blame her, or for my mother to blame herself for the way that image will forever scare me. Every emotion they feel is in extremes, as the National Institute of Mental Health describes. I remember a time in my mother's room where I told her about this guy following me in his car while I was walking home. Mom and I had an important conversation on why the world is an unsafe place for women. We had to continue on, alive. We had to keep the pieces together. Experiencing traumatic life events, as the National Institute of Mental Health explains, to be a factor to being diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. I don't think she meant to tell me so much. Things she went through. But that's her story to tell. I am simply saying I understand why she might be the way she is. Her puzzle is her own collection of thoughts and memories. I will never refer to my mother's mental illness as a spiritual problem. Her past didn't stop her from loving others, nor will her illness stop me from loving her. Even when a 2.5-hour drive from Parkersburg, West Virginia to Huntington, West Virginia means spending so much time calling her just to hear each other's voice, wishing to see all the new puzzles she put together, I knew I'd always go home, because home is where my mother is.